Okay, are we good to go? Okay, I would like to thank everyone for coming here. I'm Anja and I'm from Center for Euro-Atlantic Studies. I would like to thank our colleagues MESA 10 for working with us on this project for, I think this is the 4th or 5th year. Also, I would like to thank all the university coordinators for working with you and for working with us. And I will give the word now to Miss Catherine Shaper. She's going to be our moderator for today.
Thank you, Anja. So good morning, everyone. My name is Katie. And quickly as a note to everyone on Google Hangout, if you're participating, please mute your microphones. And so a big thank you to Center for Euro-Atlantic Studies and MESA 10 for organizing this. I know I speak for all of us so that we're excited for today's discussion. So it seems like we've already gone over all of the rules here. I just want to make a few notes for the audience members. So after the students here have an opportunity to answer the questions that we've developed, there will be a chance for the audience to ask follow-up questions. So please be brief and make sure that your questions are questions, no comments, please. And in addition to today's debate, we're also conducting an opinion poll, which will reflect some of the topics that we've covered in the questions today, but also other themes in foreign policy. And so please fill out these questionnaires. Your university coordinators at the faculties have them. Also remember to check out the University Debates Facebook page for video clips of today's debate. So without further ado, I'd like to get into the first round. And so we're going to start with the teams from Chisinau and Novi Sad. And so I'd like to welcome to the floor Olivia from Chisinau and Maria from Novi Sad. The follow-up questions from these teams respectively will be answered by Cornelia and Radovan, but you can stay seated for now. So Olivia and Maria, please come forward. Okay. Okay. So I'll ask the questions first. Yeah, I'll ask the question first and then you guys can go ahead. All right, so I'll begin by asking the question, which all of you have received, but so everyone at home or in the audience knows as well. So after the elections in France and Germany in 2017, we are starting to see proposals for reshaping the European Union. At the end of September, President Macron outlined his and France's vision for the EU, and others will follow. In the horizon of the next 3 years, in your opinion, will the EU be strengthened or weakened? Where, in your opinion, does the EU need to go? What steps should be taken in the near future? And in which areas it will likely come to a consensus and success, and which, in your opinions, will take much longer to address and to materialize? All right, and I think Olivia should go first, and I'll start timing you. You have 2 minutes starting now.
Sovereign, democratic, and unifying Europe is how Macron see the European Union in future. So in my point of view, to be able to face countries like China and United States of America, European Union should be able to make a bigger budget and to become more powerful in industrial and economic point of view. To become more powerful in my point of view, European Union should attract countries like Norway, like Iceland, like Switzerland, which are not members of European Union, and because they are very economically developed. I have an quotation which says there is a wide agreement between France and Germany when it comes to proposal, although we must work on the details. The proposals Macron told in the speech which took place in Paris 2 days after the election in Germany, he spoke about defense, migration, intelligence, university, and terrorism. In my point of view, the biggest problem in the European Union is terrorism because it affects the well-being of all the people which live in the European Union and physical safety of them. Also, Macron spoke about financial transaction task, and he said that they should share floor for carbon price. In nowadays, in the point of view of Macron, the president of France, European Union is too weak, too slow, and too ineffective. And in my point of view, to solve these issues, they should concentrate themselves in countries with more economical develop. Thank you.
Thank you. And you stayed within 2 minutes. So now Mario, if you'd like to go.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I'd like to say that this is a very important topic to talk about because Macron, the president, said that he has a lot of ideas that. Oh, thank you. He has a lot of ideas that should take a lot of time and money to accomplish. And the biggest problem for the European Union at the moment is terrorism, like my colleague said. And I think that they should really focus on that first, because you can't, he is saying that he supports open immigration system, open customs, and I think that he can really focus, like he's pushing a lot of stuff under the carpet, you know. He's saying that they should have like the finance minister and parliament and everything that they don't have at the moment. But I think that's not the biggest issue. First of all, now France has a chance to become like the leader of the European Union because of Germany and because of a fail, so to say, of Chancellor Merkel to form a stable parliament. But I think that he can really focus on those things that you asked. He can really have a strong integration in the form of Brexit, because he expects of help from Britain. He wants a union to work as one country, and he really needs Germany in that. He really needs Britain, who's probably gonna leave. So I don't think he really should focus on that. I think he should be focused on more serious issues like terrorism. Thank you.
Thank you to both our participants. So now I'd like to turn to the audience for a follow-up question. Okay, any member of the audience? Cornelia and Radovan. Thank you. It seems like both of your team members identified terrorism as one of the main threats to the European Union. Is that an internal threat or an external threat, and how would you recommend that lawmakers address it?
I believe that terrorism is an external problem, as this problem are confronting all the European Union countries, also countries above the borders of EU, like United States. Therefore, I think it's one of the main priorities, not only of EU, but also at the international level, to solve this problem, to unite in order to fight against terrorism all over the world.
Okay, thank you. And Radovan, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would also say that terrorism is external thing, because especially now, European Union is the main target of terrorist attacks in the world. And I think the main reason for that is that European Union is it's an organization that world looks up to, and of course it's interesting for the, I would say, Islamic part of terrorism organizations like ISIS, because they want to establish their rule over Europe, because that's the main goal of Islam as a religion, not just of ISIS. So I think that all the countries should try to fight it, and I think that migration crisis is it has been it went in favor of terrorism, because a lot of people from these areas of Islamic countries came to Europe, and I think more than 2 million people from Syria, Libya, etc., came to Europe. So it's now even harder for Europe to act on this new situation. Thank you.
All right, thank you both for your answers. So now I'd like to turn to the, we have 3 more teams to answer the original question. You can leave your mics here. So they're called the teams from Belgrade, Bratislava, and Sarajevo, and respectively that will be Lana, Ivana, and Iman. So we'll start with Lana. And you'll have 2 minutes to answer the original question on the future of the European Union.
So you're not going to read it again, I can start?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I think that European Union will be weakened in next 3 years. The reason why I believe it will be weakened is, first of all, because all member states have different beliefs on how to make or how to fulfill the European Union priorities. And although they might have the same priorities they want to go for, they do not agree on how to make them, how to realize them. And those priorities are stronger Eurozone institutions that will make currency stable. The second one is joint defense and budget migration program and policies, and the third is free trade in a continent that will be not naive to be in competition with other roles in world trade. And I believe that in order to be stronger, to be improved, European Union needs to be more independent from the United States of America. And also I believe that European Union should have better relations with Russia, because specifically of Russia's improving economy. Also about the things that will be more likely to find a compromise in European Union, I believe that it would be easier to find some compromise about defense policy and budget. And first of all, because citizens of member states are afraid of terrorism and are afraid of open borders. But at the same time, I think that it is hard to believe that member states of European Union will make a compromise on migration policy, because countries have really different stance on this topic. Like, for example, Italy and Greece, they want other countries to take in more refugees. And at the same time, Hungary really wants more control of external borders. Thank you.
Thank you. And turn it over now to Ivana.
In September, French President Macron has presented his 6 ideas at Sorbonne about the future of the EU and the task that should be resolved in the near future. I'll take some points from his speech, but my team and I, we believe that the European Union will be strengthened in the near future. However, we believe that the European Union should take steps towards integration, especially in the Eurozone, also in prevention of terrorism and cyber attacks, and also to improve its migration policy. In defense and security, Macron proposed joint military force that would complement the already existing forces and organizations such as NATO, and not replace them. He also proposed the creation of European Intelligence Academy to fight against terrorism, which should have a consensus amongst the countries. However, the Eurozone is a tougher topic because there is not a unison between the German government and the French government. And President Macron proposed a finance minister, a large common budget, and a parliament for the single currency area. And we already know that there will not be a consensus. However, in transformation of European stability mechanism into true monetary fund is more likely, and we believe that there will be some progress in this area. In migration, he pushed for closer common asylum and also for single asylum a system that would speed up and harmonize the procedures, and we believe that there also be a progress because there's a will to improve this situation. So even though the whole situation might seem a little dark and there might be a little discrepancies, we believe that there will be a progress amongst the countries. Thank you.
The French President Macron made several key notes in his speech which tell us a lot about the future of the EU, namely with the rise of China, with Brexit, and with the growing influence of Russia and other players. The EU will have to strengthen itself in order to survive. There are several key issues which it needs to address, namely as the most important issue is its immigration policy regarding the EU's security and defense strategy. This concerns the internal and external borders of the European Union, and it needs to tackle key issues such as the rise of terrorism, which goes far beyond just controlling the borders and who comes into the country, who seeks asylum, but comes also often from within European Union citizens from before. Secondly, the European Union institutions need to be restructured, and President Macron mentioned this, that the European Commission is inefficient and it needs a serious restructuring, and all other institutions need reform to better suit the future look of the European Union without Britain and with possibly new members. So we predict that there should be a new treaty in the near future, which will kind of develop these institutions to better suit the new situations, and possibly even to not to include Article 50, which enables a member state to leave the European Union as it was previously after the Brexit. Namely, Britain will set an example of what will happen to a country if it leaves the European Union and decides to do that, which is in whichever way the Brexit situation plays out is not a good economic solution or prosperity for Britain. So the EU will have to kind of re-establish the strong position that it once maintained in the global power system. And lastly, it needs economic and finance reform to exclude the possibility of another Eurozone crisis, as happened in the case of Greece, which kind of, to a certain extent, drew other countries into a crisis. And also, with the new policies that after 2004, every member state has to adopt the euro as its currency. We believe that with the present system, it isn't leading really anywhere. So there needs to be serious reform when it comes to EU defense and security strategy, when it comes to the EU's institutional structure, and when it comes to the EU's economic and financial structure. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. You're welcome to take a seat now. And for follow-up questions from the teams from Belgrade, Bratislava, and Sarajevo, respectively, I'd like to call up Sofia, Mario, and Ismail. And now turn to the audience. Do you have any follow-up questions? And if anyone in the audience has a follow-up question, please wave your hand or make some signs so we know that you have a question.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Um, I have a question. What do you think? Can a right-wing political party in Germany, Alternative for Germany, which became the third power in the German parliament after the elections, somehow affect the European Union? If yes, how?
So can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. What do you think? Can a right wing in the Germany a right wing political party in the Germany, Alternative for Germany, which became the third power in German parliament after the election, somehow affect the European Union? If yes, how?
Okay, great. So just to repeat, can a right-wing party in Germany affect the future of the European Union? And if so, how? So I'd like to start with Sophia.
Well, I don't think that Alternative for Germany will affect European Union, because I don't think the party is still strong enough to make that big impact on German politics, and especially because German Chancellor Angela Merkel, she is still the biggest leader of the European Union, and despite the problems with forming the coalition, I think that Germany will stay on its course toward the European Union that we had in the past couple of years.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. And now Mario.
I'm not going to say anything new. As my colleague mentioned, Alternative for Germany is not that strong party. It is excluded from the coalition debate and discussions. So I don't think the Germany is going to go to that way to alternative to the far right, and I don't think that Alternative for Germany will be that powerful to somehow do anything with EU or on the EU level.
Thank you. And finally, Ismail.
So I'll just add that it's not just about Germany. Even in France, in Netherlands, the elections that we had this year, nothing has been changed. These parties, far-right parties, actually won certain percentage of votes, but the whole policy of the countries, especially towards the European Union, did not change. They will continue for the fight for the EU idea, and I don't think that they will move away from that course.
All right, thank you. You can return to your seats. I'd like to call up the next teams to answer the original question from Podgorica and Banska Bystrica, respectively Ivana and Adam. All right, and we'll begin with Ivana. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. So first of all, when it comes to the European Union, we should take moments and appreciate everything that they have done for the last 60 years, because their history has a lot of problems, and they had the power to get over all of them. So globalization has bring new problems such as migration and migration and terroristic attacks, but it's not something that European Union can't resolve. It's just a matter of the time, because as long as we have French and German collaboration, they should come along and try to resolve everything. Also, I would like to we have problems such as climate changes, and that's all that's affecting, but the European Union needs to find a way to consensus to resolve everything, and it should be resolved in the I'm sorry, and should be resolved. So also we have new leaderships, and there is always European pessimistics, but as long as we have French and Germany who are interested in strengthening European Union, there is the future for everything.
Thank you. And Adam?
So, from my point of view, the future of the European Union depends on many various circumstances. In this time, European Union has many serious problems, and it's impossible to mention all of them. But in my opinion, the three of the most serious problems are current migration crisis, international terrorism, and populist and Euroscepticist movements, mainly in the former post-Soviet countries such as Hungarian Fidesz, led by current Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, or Law and Justice in Poland, led by Jaroslaw Kaczynski. And in my opinion, European Union will be weaker in the horizon of the next 3 years because current political leaders in Brussels don't have abilities to solve this problem. And the next steps which European Union have to do if it want to be stronger were mentioned by French President Emmanuel Macron in his speech a few months ago, when he mentioned, for example, establishing of the common European Intelligence Academy for sharing intelligence informations, or protection of our living environment by fixing fair prices for carbon, or in my opinion, the most important part of his speech was on enlarging of the European Union by the countries from Balkan, Georgia, or Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to turn to your seats. I'd also just like to make a note to the audience here. If you could please be silent while the other students are answering, just to be respectful to them and to be sure that the audience via Google Hangout can hear all the answers. And so now I'd like to call up for follow-up questions from Podgorica and Banska Bystrica, respectively, Jovana and Ihor. And if anyone in the audience has a question, please wave your hand or make some notes so we are aware that you have a question to ask. Thank you. Jovana.
In your opinion, does the European Union need a global decentralization? If yes, can it decide part of actual questions of European Union?
So can you repeat that one more time for us?
In your opinion, does the European Union need a global decentralization? If yes, can it decide a part of actual problem questions of European Union?
So the question is, does the European Union need global decentralization?
Yeah.
In my opinion, the meeting which European Union needs in this moment is to be aware of their power and to remain us of their roots, and they should follow their goals, and also they should do it according to its values. They should be strength, and they should do what they know to do the best, and it is to resolve this problem.
In my opinion, I think that the European Union should not start a global decentralization. Why? First of all, the European Union was built as a federation, and it would be very unlogically to start a decentralization process. That was the first position. The second position is it will take a lot of time, many years, maybe 10, 20 years, to change the law in the European Union, to change the institutions in the European Union. And I think that decentralized European Union will not be as effective as it is right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yep, you can return to your seats. Thank you. So this concludes our first round covering the questions on the future of the European Union. So now we'll move on to the second round. We'll be answering the second question, which I will read out shortly. But first, I'd like to call up to the stage the team from Podgorica and Bratislava, Milos and Tomasz, respectively. All right, and the question you'll be addressing is the second question, which is, North Korea continues to threaten international peace and security by its ongoing nuclear program development. It has ignored all calls of international community to stop the program. The Korean nuclear threat is considered to be one of the most serious threats to our security. The United States President Donald Trump has been clear in his United Nations speech this year that he will use all necessary means to defend our countries if need be. Do you think North Korea is such a serious threat to our security that we should take all necessary means, including the use of armed force, to stop its nuclear program? Do you believe that dialogue can generate some positive results? And finally, do you think that sanctions against North Korea are effective? And so we start with Milos. You have 2 minutes.
We can see that nuclear arm North Korea is the threat not only for USA, it's also threat for the Asian neighbor, because the North Korea is the well-armed and large armed force with combined with nuclear tests that have it's possibly the most biggest worldwide issues in this time for security. At first, North Korea leader consist their politics on military, strong military, and their nuclear ideas and developing nuclear missiles. For that, they are trying to, as they say in Pyongyang, to develop asymmetrically same nuclear system as they possible internal forces that can make struggle with their internal politics. In first case, United States are the only country that can the only country that can expect that guarantee regime of North Korea leader Kim Jong-un, and for that, not only USA, also their allies like China, Japan, or South Korea. I think that the main thing is negotiation for this question and this issue, not sanction, because we can see that for the last 55 years, Korea was almost all time in some kind of sanctions, and that it's do not have a result for that. They are still developing their nuclear system, so some kind of negotiation with allies and USA can make that they freeze the developing a nuclear system and try to stabilize that region.
Thank you.
So, in my opinion, North Korea is not a threat as we think that is. Actually, North Korea is a threat, but not as big as we think. So that's the main point. In our opinion of our team, North Koreans just have today their nuclear weapons and nuclear program in order to secure the country, because they have a fear. They saw what happens in Iraq, what happens in Libya, and they have a fear since the George Bush pointed with his finger on North Korea, saying this is the rogue state. Since then, North Korea is developing their nuclear program. So I am not sure, but I think the North Koreans will not or won't use their nuclear weapons against any state in the world. Also, the Slovakian ambassador in South Korea, in Seoul, said this summer that North Koreans will rather eat grass than it will give up their nuclear program. So the second thing was if the sanctions are if the sanctions are good, right? Yeah. So I think the debate is the first thing we should focus on. of course, that should be almost or only a partial effect. But at the end, the debates are really important for establish some kind of deal or some kind of documents with the North Korea. The second thing is to cancel the sanctions, because sanctions are not a good thing at all. Also, against Russia, sanctions are not good because, for example, the trade between China and North Korea didn't actually end it by sanctions, just moved to the level of black market. And also, if the sanctions are strict, there is also the bad thing, because the North Koreans actually doesn't care about sanctions. So what I suggest is we should make North Korea or make way for North Korea to join the capitalism and the democratic state, to trade with them, and by the small steps to actually to increase their globalization with the world, and by that we could wait, or we could see in the future some changes.
Okay, thank you very much. Both are welcome to return to your seats. And I ask the audience to consider some follow-up questions, and I'd like to call up from Podgorica and Bratislava, respectively, Angela and Veronica. Angela and Veronica from Podgorica and Bratislava, respectively. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
Okay, I have a question. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so do you think that showing any kind of involvement or intervention in North Korean policy is going to have an opposite effect, and will have an opposite effect, and will provoke a nuclear program and will expand the program? If yes, why do you think so?
Okay. All right, so just to repeat, the question was, do you think that showing any kind of involvement in the regime will have the opposite effect and provoke the regime to expand its nuclear regime?
Yes.
Begin with Angela.
Me. Okay, so in my opinion, first of all, I would like to say that I really hope that it won't come to that part, because I think that this seems like some kind of Cold War, and it's really easy to turn into a hot war, and the flame and fire. It means the end of the world, because their nuclear program is really strong, and it can defeat the whole world. I think that we should consider diplomacy, and a key element of diplomacy, dialogue, to solve this problem. And these two countries needs to try to make some compromises to each other.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Veronica, and I also agree with Angela, because I think that the military intervention into this in North Korea will not help, because we have to also focus that the North Korea has very good strategic position, and it will be also not good for South Korea or for Japan. And we also are aware that the nuclear program is very strong, and they give the North Korea very strong advantages, and they will also not give up away. So I think the dialogue is the best way how to make some kind of cooperation.
Okay, thank you both. And so now I'd like to call up the teams from Chisinau, Novi Sad, and Banska Bystrica, respectively Mikhail, Svetlana, and Philip.
Svetlana. Mihaila.
I'm from Novi Sad, Svetlana.
More from Hisana Mihaila, if I'm saying that correct.
Mihaila. Who is Mihail?
From Moldova. Sorry. Okay, and you'd like to begin.
I am first. Okay, thank you. Yeah, could you repeat the question, please?
So this is the opening question. The second question on North Korea.
Okay. So first of all, I think that yes, North Korea is a threat to the whole humanity, not only to US. And second of all, I think that the way Donald Trump started to threat North Korea and Kim Jong-un, it's not a good way to start with. Because I think that threatening them only makes them think that they are more important and only makes Kim Jong-un more determined in his way and makes him only want to continue his nuclear weapon policy. Also, we should say that North Korea now ranks fourth among the world's largest military, with 1.1 million personnel in the country's armed force. So, and also recently they have developed new missiles, which now can go even to US. So we should be more and more careful how we speak with them and how we solve these issues. Another thing I would like to tackle is the sanctions, which I think also that now are not effective because, as my colleagues previously said, we already many years give sanctions to North Korea, but as long as Chinese companies still continue to make export and imports from North Korea, this issue won't be solved. And as long as North Korea continues to sell its nuclear knowledge to countries like Iran and Iraq, then this problem won't be solved as well. Also, another problem is that even if we put sanctions in the recent years, we saw that North Korea was involved in a lot of cyber attacks. So basically, they are just stealing money from banks and from other countries, which we also can see that they will always find a way to go further with their program. Also, I think that the best solution to this problem would be a phased approach. And what I mean by this is that we can just tell North Korea that, okay, from today, you cannot have any nuclear weapons. You just have to stop everything because, of course, they won't agree with this. So what we should do is we should negotiate. We should have a phased approach. We should continue, I think, with sanctions, but only if China will be involved in this and will ensure that they are effective. So I think that continuing to put pressure on them and to try to have phased dialogue will be the best solution for this problem. Thank you.
Great, thank you. It's next Svetlana.
Thank you for your question. North Korea is big nuclear power, but I don't think that North Korea is a big threat, especially for us. I think that America and Trump wants to have everything under control, and North Korea is something that isn't on his jurisdiction, and I think that is main problem. Also, I think that threat actually doesn't exist because nuclear power and all that weapon is for defense, not offense. And also, I think that America and North Korea are in some causal, weird connection because Trump wants power and North Korea wants to show Americans that they have ways to fight back. And that's all. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And lastly.
Thank you. As my colleague said, from my perspective too, North Korea is definitely a big threat, and United States, with the head of Donald Trump, are very strict in their way how to prevent another expansion of North Korea. But we have to remember that history 70 years ago showed us what it is and how it looks like when these weapons are used, and it was weapons just after the newborn weapons. Nowadays weapons, strategic weapon, nuclear weapons are far away more powerful, and we should be very careful about this. About North Korea, we have to realize that it's very specific and a very specific regime in the world, and people there and Kim Jong-un are really unpredictable, and that's why I think we should be United States, Japan, South Korea, the countries which are in main danger, should be very careful in debating or with discussing with North Korea, and they should be prepared for any kind of situation. But the using of nuclear weapons is, from my point of view, would cause a big catastrophic scenario. And another thing I want to say is that Cuba announced that North Korea wanted Cuba as something like a colleague or partner, and that would be very dangerous too, because they can something like pump up the economy of North Korea, and it's important to make Cuba don't step back from the collaboration with North Korea. So that would be all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thanks to all three of you. Welcome to return to your seats. And for follow-up questions, I'd like to call up from these teams from Chisinau, Novi Sad, and Banska Bystrica, Alexandra, Gojko, and Veronica, respectively.
Excuse me, could you repeat the name from Banska Bystrica?
Veronica.
Victoria.
Victoria, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?
I got a question. As we know, the relationships between North Korea and North America are quite bad. And I think that we should influence Mr. Donald Trump, but I don't know how. Do you think that there is any solution to change Donald Trump's attitude of his reactions and comments to North Korea? Because I think that his reactions are not good for healthy relationships, as you said. So do you think, is there any chance or possibility to change his attitude?
Okay, so just to repeat the question, can we influence Donald Trump's actions and opinions? How, and how to improve the relationship between the United States and North Korea?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I want to quote Jack Kennedy, who said, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." So I think that today we can't influence Donald Trump's attitude towards North Korea, because he has a strong position, and he has already claimed that North Korea is a sponsor of terrorism. So today we don't have, we can't influence his decision, but maybe in the future we can find solution, and not we are, the whole world can influence Donald Trump, and maybe he will change his attitude, because because no one can give Kim Jong-un what he wants except the US, and namely the guarantees for the survival of his regime. So I think that only dialogue between the US and North Korea can generate some positive solutions. So I hope that the whole world maybe will influence Donald Trump, and he will change his mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Gojko.
My opinion is that Donald Trump already has his opinion of North Korea, and he already has his mind set out of what to do, and he already disengaged pretty much from the NATO, and I think he's going to need their help if these sanctions don't work, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, and finally,
I think this is not about Donald Trump in general. This is not about only about the United States, but this is about all countries involved in this issue. And we need to figure out the broader political strategy among key players, especially inter-Korean dialogue, and then engage the other countries as Japan, China, and of course Russia to set a common standard and try to resolve peacefully this issue. So it's not about Donald Trump, and he has behind him many of diplomats. They see this issue in different point as he does. So basically that's it. Thank you.
okay, thank you to all three of you. And now to answer the original question, I'd like to call from Belgrade, Tatiana, and from Sarajevo, Amina. All right, Tatiana first, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd just like to give a brief outline. So my main argument is that North Korea does not pose a serious threat to our security, emphasis on serious. Second point will be why diplomacy can work in this matter. And the third point will be why economic sanctions are not effective. So first off, for a threat to be serious, it has to be a credible one. However, in this situation, we have North Korea, which by just alleged, let's say, risk of an attack would simply not be in its interest, having in mind that it can result in many retaliations from the side of South Korea, from the side of Japan, from the side of the United States, which has indeed very large military capabilities. Second point is why diplomacy can work in this matter. Well, the main thing is that basically the United States can give North Korea everything they want. And that is main reason, the recognition of their country as a sovereign one. And the second of all, I would just like to emphasize that I'm not saying that the North Korea is willing to just take away their nukes. Their nuclear power is one of the main reasons why there is still a major actor on the world scene. However, I believe that a certain multilateral diplomacy could work in these terms. And third of all, why economic sanctions are not effective. In this case, we can see that North Korea in 2016 had an economic growth of 4%, with major sanctions imposed from the most powerful players in the international community. So we can see that it obviously didn't work the miracles as those states were stating. Second of all, we can see that it resulted in an emergence of a huge and enormous black market in North Korea, namely many parties were willing to work with North Korea outside of the law. And we can see China as the main facilitator of such a black market. So merely, it's not just the agreement upon the economic sanctions that was a challenge, but the enforcement of such economic sanctions from states, from the individual states, was the main challenge. With that, I would like to conclude.
Thank you very much, Nabina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amina. So we agree that there is a security threat coming from North Korea, and that the only way to have a solution under these circumstances is to involve dialogue and sanctions to isolate North Korea and to lead them to the lack of food, of resources, and then it will lead to North Korea to decline, and it won't represent that threat as it is right now. Also, USA is the loudest when it comes to talk about North Korea. So if something happens, if North Korea launch nuclear nuclear missiles to USA, the one reaction will cause the another reaction. So there is a threat, but we don't know what is hidden and what are the interests behind it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
You return
you.
your seats. And for the follow-up questions, I'd like to call up from Belgrade, Stefan, and from Sarajevo, Arabia. And before we turn to the follow-up questions, I'd like to do a quick poll here. So using your cards here that we passed out, how many people think that North Korea poses a serious security threat? Please raise your green card if you think North Korea poses a serious security threat. All right, so it looks like we're pretty divided. And next question, do you think that economic sanctions are effective? All right, so with that going on, I'd like to turn now to our audience for follow-up questions. So Stefan and Navia can come forward.
What? Ladies first.
Our argument was.
This is follow-up questions, so we're ready to hear from the audience. Yes, you may pose a question. Not sure who's writing that. Montenegro, I think.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Clearly, okay. We were wondering, what do you think, in your professional opinion, will change in the next 2 or 3 decades, in the next 20 or 30 years, concerning the regime in North Korea? Will it be able to change? And if yes, by which means? By what means? Thank you.
So asking what will change in the official regime in North Korea in the next few decades, and if so, how will it change?
So as we said, that North Korea poses no threat to global security, we can say that nothing will change with regime in North Korea if global stage is not changed. So if Communist Party in China is still dominant and China is still second party in this new bipolar world with USA on the other side, North Korea will remain as it is. So just North Korea will prevail, and this situation will prolong, and we will have status quo for a long time in the next few decades. Thank you.
So hello everyone. Basically, what we know about North Korea is really low because the country is isolated, and we don't have so many informations about regime, about their intentions. So I think that North Korea. I think that there will be no change in when it comes to the leadership or the government. So the basically Kim Jong will prevail, and yeah, it is like hereditary position, and it will stay in their family. So yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you very much. So now moving on to the third question, final round of the debate. And I'd like to call up from Banska Bystrica, Roman, and from Belgrade, Alexander.
Thank you.
All right, and the question you'll be answering is the third and final question, which is about Catalonia. At the end of October, Catalonia declared independence. Even though this step received no international understanding or support and the government of Spain applied relevant constitutional measures, do you believe that this was an episodal act, or will it eventually result in Catalonia's full sovereignty? Do you believe that other regions in the EU will follow a similar path inspired by Catalonia? So Roman?
So my question is, do you really believe or do you imagine Europe with 98 countries instead of 27 or 28 respectively? Well, I don't. And talking about Catalonia, it really has a right to self-determination because of its history, long history starting in 1000, then its own culture and language. At the same moment, we got the situations that people really back this independence. Referendum, demonstrations, and party representation of the Catalan parliament are cases in point. At the same moment, we've got the second party of the conflict, and it's Catalonia backed by the European Union, and it doesn't want independent Catalonia. That's why it condemned its independence declaration. That's why it imposed the direct rule over the region. Well, if we take into consideration that Catalonia can become independent, then I hardly believe it can happen. And at the same moment, I hardly believe that new independent state will become really independent, and we'll see the case similar to those in Abkhazia and Kosovo. Another point is separatist movements. As Jean-Claude Juncker said, that if we allow Catalonia to become independent, then these separatist movements in Europe will actually follow. And instead of 27 or 28 states in the European Union now, we'll see 98 countries, what will be a very big problem because it's very difficult to work with such number of countries. And if number of countries will be bigger, it will be plainly impossible to cooperate among them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alexander?
Thank you. So what will happen in Catalonia? We will see that after the elections on December 21st, but I doubt that there will be a independent Republic of Catalonia for two main reasons. First one is the economic reason. So we have already seen that some companies have moved out from Catalonia, and the second reason is the lack of support from the European Union. So I believe that even if separatists win the majority in the elections, that there will be negotiations between Catalan government and Madrid that would result in restoring autonomy of Catalonia with perhaps some additional provisions that we didn't have in the past, but there will be no independence. As for the other European regions, I think it is pretty hard to compare the situation because Catalonia has historic background of struggle for independence. This is similar, for example, with Scotland, but not other regions such as Brittany or Lombardy or Flanders and so on. So it is really hard to look at these regions as the same situation. Some of them want autonomy, some of them want independence, some of them have the majority for their political goals. Some of them do not. Even in Scotland, the recent polls show that less than 50% of people are for independence. So I don't think that we will have the Europe of regions in the near future. However, the fact that there are people who want more autonomy and independence shows us that there are underlying problems, such as the economic development in national states, problems with political systems, corruption, and so on. So I believe that European Union and its members should tackle these problems in the future, but they would not result in 98 states and 98 members of European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now for the follow-up questions. At this point, I'd like to ask the team from Banska Bystrica and Belgrade to nominate one of their members to come forward to answer the follow-up question. And in the audience, if you have any follow-up questions, please show us a sign.
Может взять. Ближе, ближе, ближе.
Question is, what chances has Catalonia to remain a part of the European Union after if Spain will use the right of veto?
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear that. Could you say it again?
Yes. What chances has Catalonia to remain a part of the European Union?
Get closer to the microphone, please.
If Spain will use the right.
My problem.
Is it possible to type the answer? I don't know if there's a way to do that. Let's take the question from Moldova first.
Микрофон тогда. Попробуем. О, давай вот на этот сейчас.
Okay, from Moldova, can we take the question, please? Okay, was there another question that I see from Slovakia? Okay, in Banska Bystrica, do we have a question there? Okay, is it possible to type a question to us, or else we can take one from the audience here? Is there anyone else from Moldova there that would like to ask a question?
Do you hear us?
Do you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Closer to the microphone, please.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Just closer to the microphone.
Perfect. Chances has maximum closes. Okay. This remain a point of independence if Spain will use the right of veto.
Okay, I heard the beginning, like what chances? And go ahead and take your question. Okay, and the group in Banska Bystrica, you can go ahead and type your question. We can see it on our screen here.
Our microphone is working now. Can you hear me? Okay, my question is, do you think that Catalonia will ever become a part of Spain again in the future? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the question was, do you think Catalonia will return to being a part of Spain?
Well, we would like to start with a status quo, and that is actually me. I personally would like to start with status quo, and that is that Catalonia, in my personal opinion, still is a part of the Spain. We did not have any formal recognitions from other states, although they do not constitute a element of statehood. They are quite important for the international community to recognize state. But even if we do take this approach that Catalonia now is not part of the Spain, yes, I personally believe that it would once again be, or that it would stay in as a part of the Spain, namely because every country will simply fight for the territory that it sovereignly does have. That would be my question. My answer.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, let's imagine that Catalonia now is not a part of Spain. As we know, Spain, for Catalonia, it's the main market for their goods. Yes, Catalonia is a very rich region, but they have to sell their goods somewhere. If Catalonia is not a part of Spain, they can lose their main market, and Catalonia will lose a lot of money, millions, maybe billions of dollars. And I think that when people realize it, they would like to reunite with Spain. This is my opinion. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And to answer the original question, I'd like to call up from Sarajevo, Leila, from Chisinau, Kristina, and from Podgorica, Tomka. All right, begin with Leila. You have 2 minutes.
We can say that this is the biggest political crisis in Spain for the last 40 years, and also a real challenge for the European Union. After years of hostility, separatist parties proclaimed Catalonia a republic, and Madrid has responded by imposing direct rules on that region. And what will happen the next in Catalonia depends on how many supporters will follow the orders by a future new administration in Madrid. If there is a general audience, that then regional elections planned for 21st December will be held as planned, and that will mean that Madrid still have control over the territory. On the other hand, if Madrid lose that control, it will mean that separatists strengthened over time, and that will mean also a growing crisis. It can produce a lot of problems for Spain, because in that case Madrid can use forces, and that will, can produce a lot of issues for the European Union also. But I don't think so. Don't think that this crisis can end by declaring Catalonia a republic, because it is obvious that European leaders won't support any political movement that can lead to split of any of its members, because after Brexit they want to avoid any crash in that part. And also, this is very important, because this crisis is happening in one of the major European states, and other European leaders won't display any support for this referendum. We know that European Union is a project that consists of national states, and its base principle is they to work together and stay together in order to combat any crisis. But now we have a rise of nationalism which try to destroy it, and I hope that they will find way to combat that Euroscepticism and nationalism, and to cope. we know that this crisis in Catalonia is fine to resolve, but I think that Europe should be involved and should try to find some solutions, some innovative solutions to end this crisis. And I believe that I think that the European Union should avoid to sleepwalk through yet another conflict. Thank you.
Thank you. And so go to Christina.
From my point of view, I don't think that Catalonia will become independent from Spain, since the Prime Minister of Spain has declared that he can invoke the Article 155, which allows the Spanish government to intervene and to take control under an autonomous region, which doesn't fulfill all the obligations of constitutions. The Puigdemont warned that the triggering of Article 155 can be, as he called, a long list of mistakes of Spanish government, and the possible arrest of Catalan government can be an ultimate mistake. Moreover, King Felipe made a rare television address where he accused Catalan government of attempting to break the unity of Spain, and it can push for push for independence of Catalonia could threaten the country's social and economical stability. After Catalonia's attempt to declare independence, I think that other regions in Europe will attempt to and will follow the road of Catalonia. For instance, Venice and Lombardia, the wealthiest regions of Italy, are eyeing a referendum at gaining more autonomy. Other country that has separatism regions is Belgium, a country split between three communities, languages, and regions. Flemish community is in the north of the country, where the Belgian Dutch is spoken. Wallonia is in the north of the country, where French is spoken, and in the far east is the German-speaking region. Finally, a region that supports the movements in Catalonia and is looking at it with interest is Scotland. After its first legal referendum held in 2014, where the separatists lost with 55%, they are still hoping to have a referendum where they could win.
Thank you. And finally, Tomka.
Okay, thank you. My name is Leila. So firstly, the main problem for the Catalonia is that the referendum is illegal, and the only body to change the legalness of the referendum is within the Spanish constitution. So that puts the Catalonia in the bad position from the first hand. And secondly, we may argue that they will continue to tend for the independence. As Spain is decreasing their autonomy, it will just provoke people to quest for more their national sovereignty, their national identity. So it will just increase the extent of their quest for the independency. But the problem is also for one country to gain the external sovereignty, the recognition of the other countries is necessary. And as none of the states wants the same independence movement within their territories, the Catalonia will not have any kind of the backup from the other states. So that puts the Catalonia from the legal and from the state recognition perspective, and also from the economical perspective, in a really bad position. So we may argue that they will seek for the further independence, but would it be possible? It's probably not. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And now I'd like to ask those three teams that just spoke to nominate a representative to come up and answer the follow-up question. In the meantime, I'd also like to do another poll. So how many people here think that Catalonia will achieve independence? All right, it's not looking very good for them. All right, in the audience now, do we have any questions?
Can you hold it one more time, just for the picture?
Yeah, for the pictures, one more time. Okay, and then one team member from Bosnia, Moldova, and Montenegro.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I have a question. When we talk about the Catalonia crisis, we hear only negative points about separation movements. Can you see some positive points if some regions in European countries are separated?
Okay, so the question is we're looking for the positive side to independence movements.
Thank you for question. From my side, I don't think any positive aspects of Catalonia independent, because that is not what is European Union and the idea of European Union of supranational identity of European, and that is something that made productly one crisis that is not good for Europe in this moment, because the Brexit is near, was very near, and situation is not clear, so one more crisis is not good.
To name one positive side of independence movement is that the Catalans have their own identity, and if they believe that they have this identity, they have to have the right to decide whether or not they will become an independent republic or not, and that is the key issue here. It is just about the right to vote and about the right to choose their own sovereignty. And that is a positive aspect of the democracy that we want to have in Europe. So to conclude, the positive aspect of Catalonia and what happened in Scotland as an example of how this can turn out is that the people have the right to declare their identity and their affiliation towards the state. If that is independence, then so be it, but they have to have their democratic rights respected. That is the right to self-proclamation and the right to vote.
Okay, so for me, it's also very hard to see any positive outcome of this movement, as I think that Europe is about being united, and I think that it shouldn't really matter for a region if it's independent or not. They can still have their own language, they can still have their own traditions and so on, even though they are a part of a bigger country, because in the end they are still all a part of the European Union. And coming from a country that has a separatist region, I don't see any positive outcomes of this, as I think that in a world which strives to globalization, we don't have to focus on being on having small nations, but on being together and being all a part of European Union.
All right, thank you so much. And now I'd like to call up from Novi Sad, Jelena, and from Bratislava, Katarina. And Jelena?
Well, first of all, as we all know, Catalonia is one of the wealthiest regions in Spain, And if we consider the historical context, we can see that they had tendency for independence throughout its whole existence. But still, there is one thing called Spanish Constitution, in which is written that every act of separation is actually illegal. I believe that Catalonia won't stop fighting for gaining full independence, because I'm not sure will they ever be able to gain it, because they could probably lose more than they could gain. Why is that? Because according to the last referendum, 2 million people said that they wanted to leave, but Catalonia has a population of more than 7.5 million people, and electoral census of 5,300,000 people, which means that most of the people are not sure if they want to leave or if they want to stay. Also, if they leave, they could be more economical consequences. For instance, like a colleague said, the biggest trade market that Catalonia has is with Spain, so they could probably, that trade market could be reduced or even lost at all. I believe there's also a big question of entering the European Union, because if Catalonia leave, Spain could make a huge problem of its entering the European Union, because we all know that each and every member of European Union must accept a new member, so they could probably make a problem about it. When it comes to other regions who wants independence, I believe that they could follow the steps of Catalonia, but only if they make it all the way through, so if they gain the full sovereignty. But I'm not sure they would, because all of these economical things are against all that. Well, I would like to conclude with a solution, and that would be an implementation of the principle of subsidiarity, which means that all the European laws are implemented not only on the national level, but on the regional level. And like Donald Tusk said, strong regions show strong country. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Katarina, and I'm from Slovakia. And me and my team believe that the Catalonia crisis was only the episodal act, and that Catalonia will not become an sovereign act country because of internal and external obstacles. Internal obstacle is a Spanish perspective, which is important here to say that the vote was not held to official electoral system, and only 42% of citizens come to vote, and those who were against this referendum stays at home. And also this whole referendum was against the Spanish Constitution in the Article 155, and it led to strippings of Catalonia autonomy. Even if the Catalonia becomes an independent country, it would have no international support, and it would no longer be part of the EU, so it would no longer have euros, and it would lead to economical destabilization of the region. And now more than 100 companies moved from Catalonia to Spain. And from the external obstacles, there are EU's perspective, and the EU backed the unity of Spain, and this independence of Catalonia could be the cause for domino effect, and all 27 countries are aware of that, and it would provide bad precedents for for all other countries. This Catalonia case, we think that it's the biggest threat. It threatens the spirit of EU, and it's even bigger than the Brexit. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And now for the follow-up questions, I'd like to have the teams from Novi Sad and Bratislava nominate one member to come up. And in the audience, do we have any questions? Yes, you may pose another question. Is that Montenegro, I see?
Hello again. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello again. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. We would like to ask, how, in your opinion, should the European Union handle this situation, the Catalonian, the Catalonian question? Should they get involved, and if so, in which way, in what manner? Thank you.
Thank you. And just to repeat it, the question was, how should the EU handle the Catalonia question? Should they be involved, and how so?
I think that majority of European presidents and politicians said that it should be an internal question of Spain, and that they don't want to get involved. And I think that they should stay aside unless something happens, so Spain is not able to deal with this problem on its own. And I think that in no way Catalonia should be independent, because that is opposite to every law, to Constitution of Spain, to international laws. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
So in my opinion, I would agree with my colleague here. Actually, it should be internal problem of Spain, but if the Spain will do something similar as last time, that he attacked, or the police force were pretty strict on the means of capturing people, and there are also political prisoners. So in the case of some sort of different outcome of the referendum or of the elections, the EU should manage to join the debates about Catalonia and so on. But just in the case of violence of law.
Okay. And it seems like that is it. We wraps up the third and final round of our debate. So I want to thank everyone for participating, for the students here for your preparations and for your thorough answers, and to all the students through Google Hangout for all of your questions. I think it was an interesting debate covering some of the contemporary themes in IR, and hopefully you all learned some new perspectives and maybe you've changed your opinions. I just want to remind everyone the next debate will be held in April 2018 in Banska Bystrica in Slovakia. And after the April debate, the students there will go to Brussels to present the results of their research and their interviews to members of the European Parliament. And so we're all looking forward to that. Does anyone else up here have some final words? All right, well, thank you all for participating.